Wouldn't it be great if you could walk into a supermarket and buy $100 worth of groceries for, let's say, about 25 bucks? Okay, what about this one? What if you knew of a magic word that could save you up to 70% off prescription drugs? Or, yeah, I'll do that. Or up to 80% off of home appliances and electronics. How about this one? Would you like to have a job that lets you stay at home and still make $25,000 to $40,000 a year? Imagine that. I mean, you're making all of that money and you're sitting right there in your pajamas the whole time. I think that's pretty good. Well, I want to welcome you. I'm Rolanda Watts, and this is Inside Info. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Ro, you have to be so lucky to do something like that. But I have a guest on my show today who says it's not a matter of luck. He says it's simply a matter of having something that he calls inside information. His name is Richard Armstrong, and he's a writer and a longtime member of a team of more than 80 editors, researchers, and writers, all who have compiled a remarkable new resource. It's called the Book of Inside Information. Let me introduce to you Richard Armstrong. Come on, Richard. Welcome to Inside Info. Hey.
Thank you, Rolanda. It's a pleasure to be here.
I am so glad to have you here. We have so much to learn from you today. Let's not waste any time. Have a seat, have a seat. Now, Richard, my producers tell me that the Book of Inside Information has sold more than 3 million copies. I mean, that would make this a major bestseller.
It was a monster bestseller, Rolanda. In fact, the first edition of this book was one of the biggest nonfiction bestsellers of all time. But we threw all that information away and started from scratch. This completely revised and updated edition is bigger and better than ever. You know, Bottom Line Books set out to do something that no one had ever attempted before. We interviewed hundreds of the world's leading experts on virtually every subject under the sun. Doctors, lawyers, tax accountants, psychologists, pharmacists, even a former IRS agent. Our goal was to compile the largest encyclopedia of money-saving, time-saving, income-producing tips ever assembled into one book. And here it is, the Book of Inside Information.
Well, Richard, let's get right to it, shall we? Tell us about this job where you can make up to $40,000 a year without ever leaving your house.
Rolanda, have you ever called a customer service line with a problem or a question and been connected to somebody in another country?
Oh, boy, that happens all the time, doesn't it? And it's a little aggravating, Richard, because when I'm having a problem with an American company, why do I want to talk to somebody on the other side of the planet?
It's a lot aggravating, and you know, millions of Americans agree. That's why some American companies have stopped hiring people overseas and started hiring domestically for these jobs. They're looking for people who can work from home. And here's the best part. They especially like to hire stay-at-home moms, retired folks, students, disabled people, anybody who has a friendly speaking voice and likes to work from home. You can typically make between $25,000 and $40,000 a year. Now, for a working mother or a retired person, this can be a real blessing.
I think so. I see some wheels turning and some heads out here. But, Richard, so many of these so-called work-at-home opportunities are scams, aren't they?
Many of them are, yes, but not this one. On page 174, the Book of Inside Information, we mentioned some major U.S. corporations who hire domestically for this kind of job. They're all in the book.
Show of hands in the audience. How many people can actually use this information or know someone who can't? Oh, my goodness, that's almost everybody in this audience. Obviously, this information is useful.
And that's not all, Rolanda. On page 168, we reveal the secret of how to get a job when you're over the age of 50. You know, one of the nation's top experts on finding a job showed us some interview tricks for how to turn your so-called weaknesses into strengths.